Think history is just dusty dates and dull speeches? Think again. From naked fishing presidents to paint-eating artists and rat-loving royals, these legendary figures had hobbies so strange, they'll leave you stunned. You won't believe what a US president did with a mechanical horse, or what Vincent van Gogh put in his mouth. Stick around, because number 1 is bizarre in a way you'll never see coming. Kicking off at number 10, we have Grover Cleveland, the nude angler. When you picture a US president, images of formal speeches, stern portraits, and serious decisions come to mind. But Grover Cleveland, the only American president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms, shattered this mold in a truly unexpected way. Away from the political spotlight, Cleveland found his deepest relaxation in an unusual pastime, fishing in the nude. Regularly retreating to the secluded banks of the Beaverkill River in upstate New York, he would strip down and cast his line in complete solitude. This wasn't a mere one-time stunt, but a consistent habit carried out in a private camp designed to shield him from any onlookers. His unusual hobby was so well known in the area that the town of Roscoe, New York, even honored his fishing legacy with a statue, fully clothed, thankfully. Cleveland's nude angling wasn't just eccentric, it was a symbolic shedding of the intense pressures of presidency, a visceral form of escape from a life governed by public scrutiny. This candid ritual offers a fascinating insight into how even the most powerful individuals seek bizarre yet deeply personal ways to find freedom from the confines of power. Slashing into number 9, meet Tsar Peter the Great, the imperial dentist. Revolutionizing Russia wasn't Peter the Great's only passion. His other obsession was far more up-close and personal: amateur dentistry. This towering czar, celebrated for modernizing Russia through Western influence and relentless reform, had a chilling fascination with human teeth. He didn't just read about dentistry, he practiced it, forcibly extracting teeth from friends, courtiers, and even himself. These extractions weren't always consensual, but under Peter's absolute authority, resistance was futile. Instead of discarding the pulled teeth, Peter collected and preserved them, creating a macabre archive now displayed at the Kunstkamera Museum in St. Petersburg. This grisly hobby reveals much about the Tsar's character, a hands-on ruler obsessed with control, knowledge, and the tangible implementation of modern science, even at the expense of others' comfort. His approach to governance mirrored his dental experiments: direct, invasive, and often painful. Peter's dental pursuits are a stark reminder of how absolute power and scientific curiosity can merge into a disturbing cocktail of personal eccentricity and imperial dominance. Raising into number 8, it's Marie Antoinette, the royal shepherdess. Known for her extravagant lifestyle and infamous let-them-eat-cake reputation, Marie Antoinette shocked many not with grandeur, but with her bizarre escapism into pastoral fantasy. Deep within the lavish grounds of Versailles, she constructed a quaint fairy tale village called the Hameau de la Reine, where she played the role of a humble shepherdess. Donning peasant-style dresses, she frolicked among meticulously groomed animals adorned with silk ribbons, tending to a fantasy far removed from the grim reality of the French populace. This peculiar pastime allowed the queen to momentarily flee from the suffocating protocols of court life and the looming tension of a starving nation. Though aristocrats often sought pastoral diversions, Marie's deep immersion was unparalleled, suggesting a longing for authenticity in a life dominated by performance. Her pretend rural retreat reveals the psychological toll of royalty and the ironic detachment of elites who romanticized poverty without understanding its brutality. Ultimately, her hobby stands as both a poignant escape and a tragic symbol of the obliviousness that fueled the revolutionary flames engulfing France. At number 7, we unravel the gritty tale of Queen Victoria, the royal ratcatcher. Behind the imposing crown and the era that bears her name, Queen Victoria held a most unexpected fascination: rat-catching. While the image of royalty conjures thoughts of silk, jewels, and grand ceremonies, Victoria was surprisingly drawn to the darker corners of her empire. Victorian England was plagued by rats, an issue not limited to the lower classes, and this monarch took an unusual interest in tackling the problem herself. What began as a practical concern evolved into a curious pastime. Not only did she endorse and support rat-catching efforts, but she also kept rats as pets. Her personal rat catcher, Jack Black, became something of a legend, aided by his ferocious terrier, Billy, who gained notoriety by killing over 100 rats in just over 5 minutes in public competitions. Victoria's willingness to engage with such a grimy reality, from both a functional and personal standpoint, challenges the notion of an aloof, overly sanitized monarchy. It reflects her complex character, part practical, part eccentric, and shows that even rulers are susceptible to unusual fascinations that bring them oddly closer to the very people they reign over. Her rat-centric hobby paints a portrait of a monarch not above getting her hands dirty, both literally and symbolically, offering a peculiar but profound reflection of 19th century urban life and its unique challenges. Sliding sneakily into number 6 is King Farouk I, the royal pickpocket. Egypt's King Farouk I wasn't just known for his gluttonous lifestyle, rare coin obsession, and a garage full of luxury vehicles. He also had an audacious secret hobby, pickpocketing. But unlike common street thieves, Farouk practiced his sleight of hand at high society parties, relieving his own guests of their watches and valuables as a form of twisted entertainment. One of the most infamous incidents involved none other than Winston Churchill, whose watch Farouk oddly borrowed during a diplomatic encounter in 1942. After returning it with a grin and calling it a joke on the English sense of humor, the message was clear. Farouk enjoyed flaunting his immunity from consequences. This bizarre and risky pastime wasn't about theft for gain. It was about power, thrill, and control. In a world where everything was handed to him, this small act of rebellion gave him a perverse sense of dominance, especially over fellow elites. His behavior reveals a monarch deeply disillusioned with the predictable indulgences of royal life, one who sought adrenaline in socially deviant ways. King Farouk's penchant for pickpocketing exposes how the insulated nature of unchecked privilege can breed not just eccentricity, but a warped sense of amusement, proving that even kings sometimes crave the forbidden thrill of getting away with the unacceptable. Crashing down at number 5 is Tycho Brahe, the astronomer, and his beer-loving elk. Known for his groundbreaking work in astronomy and his distinctive metal nose, Tycho Brahe was no stranger to peculiar behavior, but his strangest hobby by far involved an elk. Not just a pet, this majestic creature was reportedly a close drinking companion of Brahe, often invited to the same beer-fueled feasts held at his lavish observatory. The elk's tragic demise, falling down stairs after becoming intoxicated, has since become legendary in both scientific and historical circles. While keeping exotic animals wasn't unusual among Renaissance elites, Brahe's decision to share alcohol with his elk and treat it as a social equal pushes this companionship into bizarre territory. It reflects a man who saw no boundary between scientific curiosity and social eccentricity. Perhaps it symbolized a deeper need for companionship or an irreverence towards social norms that mirrored his trailblazing in the skies. This episode, as humorous as it is tragic, underscores the thin line between genius and oddity. Brahe's life reminds us that even the most brilliant minds are not immune to moments of bizarre whimsy, and that intellectual greatness often walks hand in hand with unorthodox personal indulgences, sometimes with fatal consequences for those caught in the crossfire, even if they're elk. Puncturing our expectations at number 4 is Isaac Newton, the eye prober. Sir Isaac Newton, the father of classical physics and a symbol of Enlightenment rationality, harbored one of the most disturbing personal experiments in scientific history. While his name is synonymous with gravity, calculus, and optics, few know about his deeply unsettling obsession with probing his own eyeball. In an effort to better understand vision and color perception, Newton inserted a bodkin, a dull, needle-like instrument, between his eye and eye socket, pressing directly on the back of his eyeball. He theorized that manipulating the optic nerve this way might alter his visual experience, or even enhance his perception of light and color. This was not a passing curiosity, but a deliberate, painful, and repeated act of self-experimentation. Newton's willingness to subject himself to this extreme physical ordeal reveals a mind consumed by scientific inquiry, unfazed by risk or pain if it meant uncovering new truths. It serves as a haunting example of how obsession with discovery can override basic survival instincts. Newton's eye probing stands as a stark reminder that the path to genius is not only paved with brilliant ideas, but sometimes with terrifying sacrifices, especially in an age before scientific ethics or safety protocols existed. His behavior underscores the thin, dangerous boundary between curiosity and compulsion, a raw glimpse into the darker side of intellectual extremism. Breezing into number 3 is Benjamin Franklin, the air bath enthusiast. Benjamin Franklin, the quintessential American polymath, diplomat, and founding father, had a habit as unconventional as his intellect. He was a devout practitioner of air baths. Unlike typical hygiene routines, Franklin believed that spending time nude in front of an open window was vital for maintaining robust health. Every day, often in the morning, he would sit completely unclothed in front of a wide-open window or door, sometimes in a specially designed air bathtub, allowing fresh air to circulate freely over his bare skin. He was convinced that this ritual invigorated both mind and body, cleansing him of illness and energizing him for the day ahead. While this might sound scandalous by modern modesty standards, for Franklin, it was a practical health measure rooted in Enlightenment ideals, rationality, experimentation, and natural living. His air baths weren't random eccentricity. They reflected his ongoing quest to harmonize body and mind, using the tools of reason and self-observation. Franklin's naked ritual demonstrates how even revered historical figures weren't afraid to challenge norms or apply experimental thinking to daily life. In doing so, he personified the era's spirit of self-improvement and scientific inquiry, showing that his thirst for knowledge extended even to his pores. It's a quirky but revealing footnote to the legacy of one of America's most brilliant minds. Consuming our curiosity at number 2 is Vincent van Gogh, the yellow paint eater. Vincent van Gogh, the tormented Dutch artist behind some of the world's most emotionally evocative masterpieces, had a tragic and deeply symbolic habit that reflected the turmoil within his brilliant mind. He ate yellow paint. This was no impulsive accident or eccentric snack. Van Gogh sincerely believed that the color yellow, which dominated many of his works as a symbol of warmth, sunlight, and hope, could also brighten his soul from the inside out. In his struggle with debilitating mental illness, he sought joy in the only way he could grasp it, literally consuming color. Unfortunately, the paint of his era contained toxic elements like lead and cadmium, turning this already dangerous habit into a potentially fatal one. While modern audiences may view this behavior as bizarre or shocking, it's better understood as a desperate cry for relief from psychological torment, a tragic attempt to embody the light he so fervently painted. Van Gogh's yellow paint consumption stands as a haunting metaphor for the way art and suffering often coalesce in the lives of tortured geniuses. It offers profound insight into how creativity, hope, and despair can all stem from the same source. More than a strange hobby, this was a heartbreaking ritual of self-medication, one that reveals the raw and painful human vulnerability behind one of history's most celebrated artistic minds. Galloping into the top spot at number 1 is Calvin Coolidge, the mechanical horse rider. At the pinnacle of presidential peculiarity, we find Silent Cal Coolidge, whose famously stoic public persona masked a private hobby so whimsical it's almost hard to believe: riding a mechanical horse in the White House. This wasn't some symbolic fitness contraption. It was an actual motorized barrel that Coolidge would mount multiple times a day, sometimes while wearing a cowboy hat, pretending it was a real horse. Though his doctor claimed it aided digestion and liver function, it's widely accepted that this explanation was more a convenient excuse than medical fact. The truth? Coolidge simply adored it. This hobby reveals a rare and delightful facet of a man, remembered mostly for his dry wit and political restraint, a childlike sense of fun, and a need for joyful solitude. In an era before smartphones and viral videos, such a quirky indulgence could remain largely hidden from public scrutiny, allowing leaders to hold on to small, humanizing oddities. Coolidge's mechanical equestrian antics remind us that even the most reserved figures require escape, silliness, and play. It's a lighthearted conclusion to this list, but a powerful reminder that behind the gravitas of power often lies the desire to just be human, even if that means pretending to be a cowboy while bouncing on a fake horse in the executive mansion. From paint-eating artists to presidents riding mechanical horses, these bizarre hobbies show that even history's most iconic figures had their own private escapes, and sometimes downright strange ones. These weren't just quirks, they were deeply personal outlets, reflections of inner battles, curiosities, and the timeless human need to step outside the spotlight. So the next time you think history is all seriousness and ceremony, remember, even a czar once collected teeth. If you enjoyed this peek behind the curtain, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more weird, wonderful dives into history. Thanks for watching.